The roar of motorcycles echoed through the cold evening air as a group of Hell's Angels thundered down a lonely road on the outskirts of a forgotten town. Their engines sounded like rolling thunder, their presence enough to make most people turn away, but amid that intimidating storm of leather and steel, something unexpected happened, something so small, so fragile, that it cut through the noise like a whisper in a hurricane. A little girl stepped out from behind an old gas station sign, her tiny hands trembling, her clothes soaked from the drizzle, and her eyes, wide, scared, desperately hopeful, locked onto the biggest rider among them. She didn't scream, didn't run, didn't hide. She simply lifted her face and asked, with a voice soft enough to stop a monster, "Sir, can you help my mom?" And in that moment, the hardened biker who thought he'd seen every cruelty in the world felt something inside him crack open. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of humanity, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kind Hearts Hub to support stories that inspire people around the world. The biker's name was Jack Ironclad Mason, a man whose reputation was carved from years of battles, both on the road and inside his own heart. He was known for his silence, his strength, and the iron shield he kept around his emotions. But when the little girl tugged gently at his vest and repeated her plea, something primal and protective surged within him. He didn't speak, not yet. He simply turned off his bike, stepped down, and knelt so his eyes met hers eyes that carried a pain far too heavy for such a small soul. Her name was Lily, 7 years old, pale cheeks, messy hair, and a courage that came only from desperation. She told Jack that her mother was inside the abandoned building behind the gas station, sick, unable to move, and that no one else had stopped to help them for 2 whole days. She had been surviving on a stale granola bar she found behind the counter and rainwater collected in a cracked soda cup. Jack listened without interrupting, his jaw tightening as every detail of her story dug deeper under his skin. He had seen neglect, he had seen despair, but seeing a child forced to be strong because the world had failed her, it stirred a sorrow he didn't know how to name. Inside the building, Jack found Lily's mother lying on the floor, her breathing shallow, her face flushed with fever and her body weak from exhaustion. She had been struggling to protect her daughter despite her condition, using the last of her strength to keep Lily warm at night and reassuring her that they would be okay. But the truth was clear. Without help, she wouldn't have survived another day. Jack lifted her gently, shocked by how light she was. The rest of the Hell's Angels, usually rowdy and unfiltered, watched in heavy silence, shaken by the sight before them. There was no hesitation. They wrapped blankets around the mother and child, gave Lily food and water, and loaded both onto the safest bikes in the group. Their intimidating presence suddenly transformed into a strange, rugged sort of hope. As they rode into town, people stared with confusion and fear, unsure of why notorious bikers were escorting a frail woman and her little girl. But Jack didn't care. His only focus was getting them help. At the hospital, Lily refused to leave her mother's side until Jack gently convinced her to rest, promising her that he wasn't going anywhere. For days, he stayed. He brought food, warm clothes, and toys for Lily, awkwardly at first, but with growing sincerity. He stayed in the waiting room while doctors treated her mother, pacing the halls like a restless guardian. The nurses whispered about the biker with the soft eyes who never left the child's side. The doctors nodded respectfully whenever he strode by. The image of the fearsome Hell's Angel began to transform in the minds of everyone who saw him there. It took time, but Lily's mother slowly recovered. Her illness was a mix of severe infection, dehydration, and weeks of neglect caused by escaping an abusive home. She had tried to flee with her daughter, hoping to find safety, but had collapsed before making it to a shelter. Lily had done everything she could, holding on to hope even when hunger clawed at her stomach and darkness surrounded her at night. When Jack learned this, his chest tightened. It wasn't just sympathy, it was anger, or protective, and aimed at the cruel world that forced a child into such a nightmare. When Lily's mother finally opened her eyes and saw Jack standing there, this intimidating figure who had become her daughter's hero, she cried softly. She couldn't speak much, but she didn't need to. Jack understood. He had once been lost too, swallowed by a life of violence and mistakes. and if not for the brotherhood that took him in, he might have never climbed back out. Seeing this mother and daughter struggling alone awakened old ghosts within him, ghosts of the boy he once was, abandoned and invisible, waiting for someone to notice. As days turned into weeks, Jack became a constant presence. He helped them find a safe place to stay, arranged support through local organizations without taking credit, and even fixed up an old motorcycle for Lily to sit on while she giggled with pure joy. The other bikers teased him, calling him soft-clad instead of ironclad, but behind every joke was a deep respect, because they saw what Lily saw. Beneath the leather and scars, Jack had a heart fiercely capable of love. The bond between Jack and Lily grew stronger. She started smiling more, drawing pictures of him with angel wings and a big motorcycle. She said he was her guardian angel, the one who saved her when the world had turned dark. Jack would laugh, embarrassed, but her words stayed with him. He found himself riding slower when she waved from the roadside, checking his phone more often in case her mother needed something, and thinking about them late at night when the roar of engines faded into silence. But one chilly afternoon, when Jack stopped by their new home with groceries, he found Lily sitting outside on the front steps with tears running down her cheeks. She had received a letter, one that said she might have to leave town with her mother and live in a shelter far away. The thought of losing the first place she felt safe, the first person she trusted beyond her mother, shattered her. Jack sat beside her, his hand resting gently on her tiny shoulder, feeling her shaking breaths against him. In that moment he realized how deeply this child had carved her way into his life. He wasn't just helping her anymore, he was protecting family. Jack refused to let them be uprooted again. He rallied his biker brothers, contacted local advocates, and fought to make sure Lily and her mother could stay. It took paperwork, meetings, and days of persistence, but Jack didn't back down. He had battled gang rivals, broken bones, and survived storms on the road. Nothing compared to the thought of this little girl losing the stability she deserved. And finally, after relentless effort, the authorization came through. They could stay right where they were. When Jack told Lily the news, she threw her arms around him with such force that he felt his heart squeeze. She whispered, "Thank you," over and over, her tears now warm with relief, and for the first time in years, Jack felt his own eyes sting. He turned away, slightly embarrassed, but Lily noticed. She touched his cheek gently with her small hand and said, "Real angels cry too." Her words broke him open in a way nothing else ever had. The big, hardened biker, the man who had built walls around his soul so high even he couldn't see over them, finally cried, not from pain, but from a strange, overwhelming love he never expected to feel again. Life didn't magically become perfect, but it became better. Beautifully, steadily, sincerely better. Jack visited often, bringing groceries, fixing broken cabinets, teaching Lily how to ride a small bike safely, and sitting with her mother at the kitchen table as she slowly rebuilt her confidence. The town, once wary of the Hells Angels, began to see the truth. They saw a man who proved that kindness can come from the most unexpected places. They saw a child who brought light into a life that had forgotten how to feel. They saw a mother who refused to give up, and they saw a bond that transcended labels, appearances, and past mistakes. Near the end of the story, as Jack stood watching Lily ride her new bicycle in circles, laughter filling the air like music, he realized something profound. Sometimes, the people who seem the toughest are the ones most desperate for a reason to be gentle. Sometimes, the smallest voices are the ones that save us. And sometimes, the world gives us a second chance not by asking, but by placing someone in our path who needs us. Someone who unlocks the parts of us we thought were gone forever. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to KindHeartsHub. Your support helps spread more stories of compassion, hope, and humanity. Before the video ends, comment this to show your support for kindness. Angels come in all forms,